I'm French, I live in Paris, and today I'm gonna explain every type of French restaurant and what you should order there, starting with the most iconic, the Parisian café. These are literally everywhere, and they're more than a restaurant, they're a way of life. So here, it's really not about the food, it's about having a third place where you can chill, people watch, maybe read a book, and they have crazy long opening hours, at least for France. This one, for example, is open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., which is in France pretty long. And in terms of food, they have different things for different times of the day. You can have a full French breakfast with croissant and tartine, quick lunches like croque monsieur and salads, and all types of drinks for the night. And I have to say that cafe food is usually not my fave compared to other types of restaurants. I personally go here for the vibes, not the food. And then everyone has their usual order at a cafe. Mine is an allongé, which is just an espresso with a tiny bit more water, which is what you should order if you want a larger coffee, because if you order a coffee in France, it would be one of those tiny coffees. And you can of course come back at night to have any type of drink. So here are a few mistakes that people make when coming to a French cafe for the first time. So first of all, do not confuse them with coffee shops. We literally call these un coffee shop with a French accent, and these are made to get good coffee, not to linger. Like, they have uncomfortable chairs and they will kick you out if you spend too long there. Also, a lot of people think about fancy cafes when they come to France, but cafes are not fancy at all, and they are at every street corner. And one of the least fancy cafes you can go to is this beloved French institution called PMU, and if you get into a cafe and it looks like this, they will not serve you an iced oat milk latte at all. All the regulars are getting a pack of Gauloises and some scratchers. In any case, Paris cafes are truly famous for a reason, and they are a big part of what makes the city so fun to live in, at least in my opinion. Another type of restaurants you might have heard about is a bouillon. A bouillon is basically France's alternative to fast food, and you should go there if you want a good intro to French food at a cheap price. They were created originally in the 19th century to feed workers with simple and affordable meals. The name bouillon means broth, which kind of was the signature dish of the time. A bouillon that still feels like the 19th century is bouillon chartier. The line is usually pretty long, and since they're usually open all day from lunch to dinner, I recommend going there outside normal French eating times if you want to skip the line. More on this in a bit. But when you enter, it feels like you've been transported to the 19th century. It's a giant, beautiful room with really big mirrors. There's a lot of people, and the servers have the typical French waiter outfit. One thing I love is that they write your order on the tablecloth. And in terms of food, they serve all the French classics, my favorite being confit de canard. But you have to know that at the moment, bouillons are very popular in Paris. And another bouillon I love, and that I actually have received a lot of good feedback about, is bouillon pigalle. So here again, the lines are long, the prices are cheap, there's a lot of people, and the menu changes all the time. But I think it's a great intro to French food, especially if it's your first time in France or if you're looking for a cheap and good lunch. Here, I love ordering French classics like œuf mayo, which are eggs with mayo, or a classic steak frites, which is just a steak with fries, but you have to try it, it's really good. So will a meal at a bouillon be the best meal of your life? Absolutely not. The other types of restaurants that are coming next in this video are way better, but it is very cheap and you're also in France, so it's gonna be pretty good anyways. Also, you can find this restaurant along with all my local recommendations on my map. I have a Paris food map with over 300 restaurants that I've personally been to and loved, and then a Paris secret map with all the hidden gems I like. Our next place is a Crêperie, which is a place where you eat crepes and only crepes. So in here you can eat two different types of crepes. You have galettes, which are salty buckwheat crepes, and you have the crepes, which are the sweet ones we'll have for dessert. And while there are some classic crepes like cheese, ham, and egg, every Crêperie has a bunch of different crepes on the menu. And for starters, we had these mini crepe rolls with salmon and cream. And on my side, I got a buckwheat galette with some sausage, emmental cheese, apples, and some mustard cream.
And for me, I got a crepe that has cheese literally exploding out of it, called the marcel, which is goat cheese and egg, honey, and nuts inside.
And you usually eat that with a glass of cider. And for dessert, you can go crazy with one of their many creations, but we decided to go with a classic beurre sucre, which is a crepe with salty butter and sugar, which is the perfect combo. In terms of vibe, you have to know that if you go to a crêperie, it's very chill. Like, you have a very cozy atmosphere. It's a very popular spot with friends, and also it's great for families. Like, I remember as a kid, I used to go to Creperies all the time with my parents. And also everything is pretty well priced, and they even have some menus available. So if you've been on the channel for a while, while, you know that I speak 4 languages and that I consider learning languages one of the most rewarding things I've ever done because you get to connect with other cultures and expand your horizons. And if you want to learn a new language, you should check out Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone has been a partner of the channel for a while now, and they are an all-in-one language learning platform designed to help you start speaking and understanding a new language naturally without feeling overwhelmed. Their lessons are based on their dynamic immersion method, which means that instead of relying on translations, you're gonna learn naturally through context, visuals, and repetition, a little bit like you learn your first language growing up. Every lesson is made to develop different core language skills like listening comprehension, writing, and even active speaking skills. You can practice your pronunciation with our True Accent feature, which listens to how you speak and gives you instant feedback based on how native speaker will sound. So if you want to try Rosetta Stone and get access to all 25 languages, you can get an exclusive discount by clicking the link in the description below or scanning the QR code on screen. Then we have Brasseries, which are one of the most well-known type of French restaurants. One thing that's different about them is that it's a little bit less formal than a traditional restaurant. And just like Bouillons, they're open all day, which you have to remember is kind of a big thing in France because we all have our meals at very specific times. You'll see in a bit. So the word brasserie literally means brewery in French. So it used to be a place where beer was brewed. It's because this type of restaurant was created by immigrants from Alsace in the 19th century. If you don't know Alsace, they're over here in France, all the way to the east, and they're famous for 2 things, beer and choucroute. And if you've never had choucroute and you're very hungry, I recommend it. But now Brasseries have a very wide menu. They don't only offer food from the Alsace region. And a brasserie I've shown on the channel that you've really loved as well is Brasserie des Prés. And I went there a while back with Theo, and for starters I had a delicious foie gras with toasted bread while he had a French onion soup. And for mains I went with the chicken risotto, not very French, while he got the steak frites. And you'll see you can have steak frites at every level of every restaurant here. And the desserts here were pretty amazing. I got my favorite of French toast, but made the French way, so very caramelized. It's so good and I recommend you try it. And we also had crème brûlée, which is also another French iconic dessert you need to try. So brasseries are a very popular lunch spot. You can eat fast at pretty much any time, and there's a high energy and a less formal vibe. In terms of prices, it's pretty average. You could find some fancy brasseries. Obviously, if you eat the foie gras and the oysters, it's gonna cost you, but a lot of them have lunch menus and plat du jour, which is how we call the specials in French. I personally love going to brasseries for a weekday lunch or when I'm in a bit of a rush, but I still want to eat good. And at night, I prefer going to the next types of restaurants. Starting with a wine bar or bar à vin. And this is not just a bar, this is where you come for a specific type of French meal called apéro. Apéro is just a pre-dinner drink, which you'll have with a few bites to eat. And here a lot of wine bars have actual kitchens where they do a bunch of stuff. But my favorite order is a glass of red wine with a planche. Planche is how we call a charcuterie board. So here we have some ham, some different type of sausages, and 3 different cheeses. So here the vibe is very casual, it's super relaxed, and a lot of wine bars have these little stone cellars like the one I'm in right now. It's also the perfect place to learn about wine because the servers are trained to find you the perfect wine for you to drink that you will like. Also keep in mind that the prices vary a lot from place to place. Some can be very cheap and some can be on the higher end of things. And this is also true of the next restaurant, which is the Bistro. This is a simple, small neighborhood place with tables close together and a short menu. Also, it's only open during the official French eating times, which means that if you go there outside of those times, you will most likely find the doors closed. A typical bistro would have a traditional vibe with a zinc bar with alcohol bottles on top, red and white checkered tablecloth, and also their list of specials is handwritten on a blackboard. So personally, when I see a place that looks like this, I know I'm gonna have a good time eating homemade traditional French food. Like for example, here we had some terrine, which is a thick fatty spread, here served with pickles or cornichons. And also for main, we have slightly heavy French comfort foods like purée saucisse, which is mashed potatoes served with a Toulouse sausage, which is obviously my favorite type of sausage since I come from Toulouse. Often in bistros, the service is more friendly because it's a small place. The team all know each other very well, and it's not uncommon for the owners to also work in the restaurant. So this is where I would go when I'm craving that very French, unsophisticated vibe that feels very comforting. And there's a word for that vibe in French. We call that franchouillard, which means that it's very stereotypically French. We often say that in an ironic way to poke fun at ourselves. But you can also have that chill, uncomplicated vibe with amazing creative food at a good price. And this is where our next type of French restaurant comes in, which is bistronomique. The word in itself is a mix of bistro Bistro and Gastronomique. The first word you already know about, we just talked about it, and the second one means fine dining. I'm told this is a fairly new category. It was popularized in the 2000s. It's a type of restaurant I love because I enjoy eating delicious and creative food in a relaxed setting and often at more affordable prices than in fine dining restaurants, although that can be debated. In consequence, a lot of the restaurants on my Paris food map are bistronomique, like my latest addition to my map, Bistro Ordinaire, which is a very cute spot in the 11th arrondissement. And here you can really feel that the team has put a lot of personality in the place and in the dishes, and that's what I look for and love in this type of restaurant. So in this category, each restaurant is very unique, and here they serve creative food with Asian and European influences since the chef is originally from China. And all the ingredients are very carefully selected to create unexpected flavors, and each dish is a new discovery. And you know, while the food is beautiful and incredibly high quality, the atmosphere and the service are made to make you feel comfortable, just like you would in a normal bistro. And if you love spending hours enjoying a meal and talking, this is really the type of place you have to try if you're coming to Paris. So as you can see, all of these restaurant types are a spectrum, and the categories tend to mix fairly often. As a French person, if I were to invite you at a restaurant, I would just ask you, on se fait un resto? Which would mean, do you want to go to the restaurant? And then we would pick an appropriate one for the occasion. Like if we're having a quick work lunch, we're 100% going to a brasserie. But if we're meeting right after work, we would get apéro at a wine bar. And obviously, if we're celebrating a special occasion, or you know, we just want to create one and eat really well, then I'd tell you to come with me at a restaurant gastronomique, or a fine dining restaurant, which is our next category. And these are the best of the best, and they can often be intimidating for some people because they either feel too expensive or too fancy. But fear not, I'm here to give you all the codes. First, always check the prices of the menus online because there are some good surprises. It's not as expensive as we think, especially for lunch. Like there's really good lunch menus at great prices. Also, if like me, you really value food, the prices are worth it for a special moment, like a bit like some people would go to a concert or to a football game. And there's not really a dress code, so don't get stressed about that. But I have to say that you might feel a bit more comfortable if you dress up a tiny bit. And by a tiny bit, I mean, you know, just a tiny bit. And here it's more than just food, it's an event, so let me show you. So here we are at Zostera, and we were just served some champagne and some little bites called amuse-bouche. And we would call that type of fine dining restaurants an étoilé, which means it's a Michelin-starred restaurant, which in itself could be a whole other restaurant type going from 1 to 3 stars. And in this type of restaurants, the chef is the star of the show. So you come here to experience their vision, and that's why I always recommend the tasting menu. And here we've been making our way through 7 different courses, and they are each a work of art and a special pairing of flavors that's delicious in a unique way. And this is why I love going to this type of places and let the chef decide, instead of just ordering something individually from the menu. And here every little detail is carefully thought of. Like seriously, look at how beautiful this plate is and how well it pairs with a squid served with an ink sauce. Also, every dish is explained and the service is discreet and made to make you feel comfortable. So I really recommend you try this type of dining experience if you're in Paris and you love food, because you'll be in for a treat. And now that we've reached the end of this meal, that will be all for me today. So if you like this video, go watch one of these that are on screen right now. I think you'll like them, and I'll see you there. Bye for now.